During World War I, organizations like the Socialist Party and Industrial Workers of the World gained national recognition with their ideas of building a democratic worker-run society not tied to the interests of capital or business. The Workers of the World worked to organize workers of all ethnicities and backgrounds. During and after the Great Depression, with so many Americans out of work, they blamed business leaders for the economy's failure, and they protested for the organizations to protect the interests of workers. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed, which was the first federal fair employment legislation. It banned discrimination in hiring, promotion, discharge, pay, fringe benefits, job training, classification, referral, and other aspects of employment on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. These two acts that were signed helped bring equal rights to minorities and help them enjoy the same rights as successful business leaders. Outsourcing is a practice used by different companies to reduce costs by transferring portions of work to outside suppliers rather than completing it internally. This means that people from other countries are taking Americans' jobs and willing to work for less money. Are you, Mr. Carter's, part of a union?
I am. We have a union here at school called the Teachers Council that all the teachers are a member of. And we don't even really have a choice. We have to be part of the union, at least because the union, we do collective bargaining, and they negotiate our contract for us, and so we have to be part of the union for that reason, essentially.
Okay. All right. Thank you. What are some of the benefits you can receive from being in a union, if any?
I think the big thing is to have the protection of numbers. If you have a union and you negotiate a contract and you have a group of 200 teachers who are united together, it's harder if there's a situation where the administration wants to single out a particular teacher or small group of people, we stand up together for one another, and we have that sort of collective responsibility and collective action for each other that protects us. And so that's the biggest benefit. But otherwise, I think just to have a group of people who come together, the big thing is to negotiate our contract, but just to constantly be thinking about what we have in common and what we need to do to make it a good working environment for us and that sort of thing is really important to have that togetherness.
I agree. What are some of the negatives of being in a union?
I'm a huge union supporter, so I don't really, I don't really think about the negatives at all. And I'm sure if you talk to some people, they would be concerned about some of the decisions that the union makes and some of the things that maybe they don't focus on that they should focus on more. But for me, I think that the benefits far outweigh any negatives. And my wife is a teacher too. She teaches in Chicago Public Schools, and you might know that they went on strike at the beginning of the year.
I heard about that.
And I know that they get a lot of criticism for that. And, how can you say you're for the kids if you go out on strike and you miss school and that sort of thing? But I think that you have to have a group of people who are willing to stand up together and fight for what they believe in. And I think that teachers' unions at least do that on the whole.
Do you believe that teachers in the high school setting are receiving the right amount of pay for the level of education they are teaching?
I do. I think we get paid well at Evanston. And this is a whole nother issue that if you just look particularly at teachers' unions, there are a lot of people who think that because we get the summers off, that we get paid too much and we get the vacations in the middle of the year and spring break and all of that stuff. But if you think about the job that we're doing, we're working with the future and working with human beings is not an easy job. There's research that shows that teachers make like thousands of decisions in just a single class period, and to have the skills to do that sort of thing, I think you should be compensated for that and compensated well. And Mr. Winchester, even going to school this year, he's going to school full time, teaching full time, and a lot of teachers do that. And so we are constantly improving our education and that sort of thing, and I think that should be reflected in our pay.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Today, to bring awareness to workers' rights, we would inform workers that they have employee rights. All employees have privacy rights, fair compensation, and freedom from discrimination. We would encourage workers that are not being treated well or with respect to stand up for their rights. Many acts require that workers have specific rights. The Age Discrimination in Employment Act prevents employers from giving preferential treatment to younger workers to the detriment of older workers, and only applies to workers above 40 years old in a workplace with 20 or more employees. The Fair Labor Standards Act requires that employees are given breaks during a workday and governs applicable salary and overtime requirements set out by federal government. Title VII only applies to employees with 15 or more employees, but it prohibits employers from discriminating in the hiring process based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Employers cannot ask job applicants very personal questions such as family-related questions to make a hiring decision. If people know their rights, they can fight for them. Employees should be treated with respect and feel safe where they work. Anyone that does not feel this way needs to speak up and tell their employers that they have rights. Although these acts exist, there are employers that do not give their employees these rights. Some employers are biased towards a certain race or gender. The more people that speak up for equal treatment and the more people that address problems in their workplace, the more change there will be. When people come together and fight for what is right, change occurs. It is up to each individual who feels powerless and discriminated against in their workplace to demand their rights.